Good morning, world.
Good morning. Well, you guys, take a look at what I recorded for Brian off the TV a few days ago. This fool, Eric Michael Dyson, said that BLM is doing the work of MLK. Listen.
Professor, who's been giving this clinic?
Yes, sir. Well, first of all, don't think that you can support Martin Luther King Jr. now, back then, and then hate the people who are doing the work of Martin Luther King Jr. now. You love MLK, love the people who are doing the work now, Black Lives Matter and the like.
It's a damn shame. I'm Cedric.
And I'm Brian, and this is Cedric and Brian. Well, that clip is a damn shame. But you know what else is a damn shame?
What's that?
I went to go get a couple of ribeyes. $19.99 for a pound for ribeye.
That's why I didn't get the invite.
And bacon? Oh, forget about bacon, man. So, are you prepared?
Like Brian says, are you prepared? Do you have enough food, water, and other essentials to get you through tough times? If not, check out My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's #1 preparedness company, and they've served millions of American families just like yours. Right now, you can save 25% off their popular 4-week emergency food kit, which will keep you well fed for 4 weeks worth of breakfast, lunch, dinner, drinks, and snacks, totaling over 2,000 calories a day. This food stays fresh for up to 25 years in proper storage, so it will be there when you need it. In fact, you may need it a lot sooner than that.
So don't wait. Go to www.preparewithcedricandbrian.com. That's www.preparewithcedricandbrian.com. Don't get caught at $20 a pound for ribeye. Dang.
All right, we went to a few days behind the celebration of MLK's birthday, so Brian and I wanted to encapsulate that a little bit and talk about it a little bit. Michael Eric Dyson, if you guys don't know, he is the new breed in the poverty pimps and race baiters, making money off of that along with Ibram X. Kendi and others. And they always have this man on every MLK.
Is that because Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson are getting a little too long in the tooth?
They're getting long. It's time to bring in the new guard now. And he's up. And actually, Michael Eric Dyson, I think he's in his early 60s. So they got to train up some new ones here. But every MLK Monday celebration, the NBA schedules a lot of their games. And they spend that whole day being woke and talking about the wokeness of the culture. And as you guys know, the NBA is about 80% black. And they spend the most of the day talking about why there isn't more black coaches. Why don't we have more black general managers? Why don't we have more black owners? It's a damn shame is what it is. But so Michael Eric Dyson, he went on to say that BLM, you can't support King if you don't support BLM, because BLM is doing the work of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Which couldn't be further from the truth. He's got to be rolling in his grave.
And it's weird because whenever you get someone like that on there, you see all the other people on the panel, whether it be Ernie Johnson or Charles Barkley, and I don't know who the lady was, but they sit there and they just nod in agreement. And for once, I would just want someone to stand up and say, you know what, you're full of crap.
You would think Barkley would do that. Barkley's usually pretty good at calling that stuff out.
You would think so. You would think so. And in the NBA, it's such as is the NFL, as the MLB, it's such a brotherhood of current athletes, former athletes, and they're always talking about racial things. And it's getting to the point where the game's not even enjoyable. We went through this in 2020 where a lot of us stopped watching sports. It's still hard for me to watch because they're always talking about the wokeness of the league and why there isn't more black representation in the higher echelon of sports.
Well, can I bring something up? Because they're going through this right now, I think, in the courts, where, not just the courts, but corporations, where they're hiring these diversity experts, and they want to make sure that they have a certain percentage of this ethnicity. Right. So when you talk about basketball, and you said right at the beginning that basketball is about 80% black, that doesn't fit the corporate narrative if you want an equal representation of every. But of course, it probably goes back to white doesn't matter. You have to have equal representation to a certain point of ethnic, but it's okay if we don't have an equal representation of white, correct?
Exactly.
Because obviously then the NBA would have to hire a lot more white players.
Exactly.
Which they're not going to do. You get it one way, but you can't have it the other. Well, we don't have enough black owners. Well, we don't have enough white players, but that's okay.
Right.
So,
yeah.
But you had another clip, right, for us?
This is another clip from Michael Eric Dyson. And and guys rarely intelligent, I've said this before on previous videos, is that it's very easy to over intellectualize what's wrong. If your vocabulary is very high, you've gone to school, and they put doctor in front of your name, you can talk about anything and people will take it as gospel. Let's play this clip really quick.
Is he a doctor?
I think so.
Oh, wow.
We've got to get beyond the narrow name calling and think about the systemic issues that we confront. And I end by saying this. When we say, think about those young white kids who are in school who we don't want to teach to hate their parents. Absolutely right. But think about the young black kids who are being kicked out of school at 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 years old. Think about the ones who are being victims.
Who's getting kicked out of school? I just had a question.
That's what I'm saying.
I'd like to see him follow up with some statistics. Who's kicking these black kids out of school?
At 4, 5, 6, and 7 years old.
Yeah.
Of racial injustice in this country. If young black kids are not too young to be victims of white supremacy, young white kids are not too young to learn about it. And then we can come together.
Okay, again, he's throwing it out there. And I've said this before on the channel. You put a bunch of preschool kids together, they all play with each other.
He brought up the term systemic issues, and this is something I've been dealing with, well, before 20, but it really took place hardcore in 2020, where a lot of my friends who are black would say, well, Cedric, what about systemic racism? And I would respond with, well, what about it? Systemic racism is a great buzzword for the left, but there's no meat behind it.
And it always they'll always point out one incident of one person that's a racist and say that's systemic. That's a person.
No, what's one idiot?
Yeah.
So I always say, what systemic issues are you talking about? And I've used this example many times before. It's like, well, as blacks, my kids benefited from this. They benefited from diversity scholarships. They which I'm sure maybe your kids will as well, because they got a little bit of.
We tried.
They tried. There's too much white.
Yeah, I guess so.
and then he said the 4, 5, 6, and 7-year-olds who are getting kicked out of school. I don't see that happening anywhere. I've never heard that story anywhere.
I know. That's why I said they throw these things. They create the straw man, and then they go ahead and they start their attack. But again, is there any fact to what he's saying?
Now, my sister has a funny story. I don't know if she watches our channel or not. I have to cue into this one. My nephew, and you've seen him before, he goes to all the Rams games that you go to. He is a diehard lover of football.
And he gets everything signed for him.
He does.
I don't.
You can't.
He does.
He has the cute factor going for him. So you got Jay-Z's autograph one time and a whole host of other people.
You got Cooper Kupp's gloves.
Cooper Kupp's gloves. He just does that. The cute factor works for him. But he was, quote unquote, kicked out of, I think it was kindergarten or preschool. Now, I thought that was funny, and I asked my sister, I said, why, what happened? It was because he was
black.
It wasn't because he was black. It was because,
according to him, it's because he was black.
According to Michael Eric Dyson, it's because he was black. But according to the people who called my sister concerned about him, it was because he was what's known as a runner. Now, I think the school had not an open door policy, but they're like, you got a young preschool kid who just dashes outside. He can run to the street. He could be picked up by some stranger. They were concerned, so they called my sister's like, this isn't the place for him. He is a runner. Now,
a runner. And that's that wink, wink. It's because he's black.
Right. And what we found out later, the reason he's a runner because he excels at so many different. He plays football, basketball. He's just nonstop energy. But we've talked about this before, how school is more conducive toward little girls than it is for boys. But for him, the idea of just sitting still for that length of time, he just couldn't do it.
So he was a little boy.
Yeah.
Little boys have a lot of energy. Boys are naturally, not all, so don't call me a sexist,
right.
But in general, he was a teacher, he knows. Mm-hmm. Boys have a lot of pent-up energy, and they need to run around, and then some boys, like his nephew, even had more energy. Mm-hmm. You know what they do now to those kids?
What?
Feed them the drugs for ADHD.
Yeah, just try and suppress everything, which is the worst thing you can do. Yeah. Let the boys be boys, but find an outlet for that energy, like my sister and brother-in-law have done with their son. He plays every sport known to mankind. And
I'm sure COVID made the whole thing worse, because now you're trapping these kids. They can't even get their energy out at school. If they did go to school, they weren't allowed to go out and play with each other.
What bugs me about Michael Eric Dyson, and you see the moderator, Ernie Johnson, who I love Ernie Johnson, very articulate, very well spoken, is that he doesn't speak out on these things. And we're starting to find out more and more that the NBA is just a little marketing arm for China. They're not going to speak out against China and all the things that are going on there, or anything that has to do with being woke, because that's where they get their money from.
It's tough. It's tough, especially when they're talking about it and they're trying to bring it into the context of Martin Luther King Jr.
Yes.
Because his whole thing, and the reason why he was so popular in the 60s at that time, is because he didn't try to sow racial division. He said, we just want people to judge us by the content of our character, not the color of our skin. This guy, the first two things out of his mouth were white kids and black kids. So he's already separated it. And he talked about these white kids that don't want to hate their parents, but he didn't talk about Cedric's kid that are half black and half white. He's already separating things into two. And in this country, my kids are biracial when it comes to Hispanic and white. His kids are biracial, black and white. These guys are going to eventually, hopefully, go out of business because everybody is going to be blended at some point.
Right.
And they are now. Unless you're a Puritan, you've got Italian and Irish. I mean, back in the day, the Italians and the Irish, those were the minorities because they weren't the English. So all of a sudden that got homogenized. So we don't separate the Irish and the Italians and the English anymore.
Right.
Now we separate the Hispanics and the blacks, and then so hopefully we won't be around that long. But at some point, all this is just going to be silly. But they're still, and like Cedric said, this is a multi-million-dollar industry to play this race hustling game. They're race hustlers.
Yeah.
And they're going to just play it out as long as they can. And the NBA is just such a platform for it because it puts a big spotlight on black people because it's a majority black sport.
Yeah. Well, Brian's going to cue up this next view from our grandpa in chief. And this is a classic. We're going to play. I'm sure you guys have seen it 100 times. But one thing I don't really like about the whole Michael Eric Dyson comparing BLM to what Martin Luther King Jr. did is that I love watching those old grainy black and white films of Dr. King walking down the street arm in arm, not only with black people, but with white people.
And American flags.
And American flags.
And he talked about we're not living up to our ideals in the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, which is the opposite of what BLM is. That's what just drives me crazy about these people, because BLM, we know, is a Marxist organization. It's not pro-America.
Yeah, so I'll get into that discussion later, but he's walking down the street with blacks. He's walking down the street with white, and he just wants everybody to get there. And when my mom tells me this story, she still gets emotional talking about it. If you guys remember the classic speech where he's talking and he says, I may not get there with you. Mm-hmm. If you listen to that speech, you can kind of hear the crackle in his voice. He said, I probably won't get there with you because I'm probably going to die, but we all have to come together. Black, white, whatever it is, we all got to come together. And this guy, like Michael Eric Dyson and others like him, completely tore that narrative apart. But this is what our illustrious president had to say.
Pandering Biden?
Even Dr. King's assassination did not have the worldwide impact that George Floyd's death did.
And he's right. Because they took George Floyd and they moved him into sainthood.
Yes.
Society right now, during George Floyd, we made that more important.
Oh, yeah. The thing that's irritating, like Brian's touching on it, is that, and I, as a black person, it really irritates me, and just as an American citizen, we take the person who's the lowest common denominator in our group and we put them on the shoulders and we march them down Main Street and we say, look at this. This is who we want to immortalize. This is who we want to worship. This is who we want to name schools after and put monuments after. And so and I thought Brian was joking a couple of videos ago. He said, you just watch. One day they're going to take down Dr. King's statue. So we're going to take down Dr. King's statue, and in its place we're going to put up statues of George Floyd and Jacob Blake and Trayvon Martin.
Because when the President of the United States says that George Floyd had a bigger impact on the world than Martin Luther King, then that's sad for the world.
Yeah, it's a damn shame.
Damn shame.
And it's hard to argue with the left. And I told Brian I was going to share this story because sometimes when I'm at home and he's at home, I like to respond to the comments. Now, we don't have a big platform on TikTok anymore. We don't do that as much as we used to. But I got into a conversation with a young lady about this, and she was talking about how BLM needs to be respected more, and how I'm a liar and everything, and I'm trying to have a cordial conversation with this person.
That's why he does the comments. Right. I'm not very cordial.
He's working on it. I was like, you're an idiot. I'm done talking. and I forgot what I said exactly, but I said something along the lines of like, BLM has raised $10 billion. Please explain to me why Patrisse Cullors, the ex-co-founder who stepped away, how she raised $10 billion and was able to buy not one, not two, but I think 3 multi-million-dollar mansions. But yet none of that money has gone to the cities in Detroit, Los Angeles, Chicago. Explain to me where that money has gone. I thought that was a very simple question. She responded with, "Oh, here you go. I guess black women can't own homes." I'm like, you're deflecting.
Let's see your accounting.
You're deflecting.
Of where you got that money.
That's not what I said. I said black women, Hispanic women, all people, gender and races should own homes. The question I asked, why aren't you concerned about the billions of dollars that were raised and it hasn't gone to anything to help black lives? But she wouldn't answer that. Well, she also said, well, how come the whites don't donate anything? I said, well, according to you, the whites hate the blacks anyway, so why would they donate anything? But
and that's so untrue anyway.
It's untrue.
Because that's, if you look way back at our episodes, you saw those BLM marches, and then a couple of black people walked out of the library and looked down and they said, well, there's just a bunch of white people down there.
Right.
So we know that these white liberals are donating their money to Black Lives Matter. So
it's hard for me to get in a conversation. I'm like, if you're not going to stick on the subject, then it doesn't even make sense to have this talk with you.
I know.
Yeah. All right, guys, we want to end up our conversation with one guy that we really look up to, Jonathan Isaac. Very similar to months ago, we talked about Gina Carano and how she was done wrong by Disney Corporation, and she joined the Daily Wire. Well, the Daily Wire is picking up some more talent in Jonathan Isaac, the star forward for the Orlando Magic. If you guys remember him, Brian and I, we've done like 2 or 3 videos on this guy. He was one of the very first individuals to say, you know what, I am not going to kneel for the national anthem. I'm going to stand, I'm going to respect my God, my country, and stand. So now he has a book coming out, and Brian can put it up there, simply titled, Why I Stand. And in this book, he's going to go over in great detail as to why he decided to stand when a lot of his teammates... Now, if you listen to a lot of those stories, a lot of those people respected each other.
Yeah.
One guy said, I'm not going to stand, I'm going to stand. Let's not bring us into the locker room and fight about it.
Right.
But I think this book, he's going to go into greater detail as to why he stood. Now, he respected God, he respected country, he respected his fellow Americans, he respected the fact that he lives in a country that can pay him an exorbitant amount of money to put on a tank top and a pair of shorts.
And basically to do something that he would have done for free anyways, and he did for free as a kid. And I love athletes that appreciate that and understand that, because you get all these prima donnas that it's all about the paycheck and they think they deserve that money. He understands that, hey, I'm blessed that I get to do what I love to do and I get to make a ton of money at it.
Yes.
And he should be, that's what we're not in this country. We're not thankful enough. Nobody's thankful anymore. Everybody thinks they're owed something. It's great to see Daily Wire spread its wings.
They're doing some great things. They were one of the first companies to say no to Joe Biden's mandates and said, we're going to put whatever time, energy, resources, money behind this to say that we're not going to go for this.
Right.
And we'll end with this really quick. Stephen A. Smith, the ESPN anchor.
I used to like Stephen.
I know. But, as you know, Kyrie Irving, the point guard for the New Jersey Nets, refused to get vaccinated until the members of the team started dropping like flies. And then they let him play. Stephen A. Smith, our prayers go out to him. If you don't know, he just came back from having COVID, having double pneumonia. He said he was not doing well and was afraid for his life. Now, the irony is that he stays on Kyrie Irving like no one's business. And Kyrie Irving's like, I'm good over here. I didn't get the shot. Right. So you're the one who's fighting for your life. And Stephen A. Smith, Whoopi Goldberg, people like that are saying, yes, but I would have died if I didn't get the shot. Yeah, things were bad and things were bleak, but had I not got that vaccine...
And I'm going to bring this up again just because this is my area of the show. You know me, I love to hit this COVID stuff. If you look in South Africa, they only had about a 20% vaccination rate there. Very low vaccination rate. Omicron hit and left them with hardly killing anybody without vaccines. People are dying here from Omicron, and we're, 80% vaccinated. So... I'm sorry, I'm not a vax denier. What I am is, like we talked about with Laura on our last episode, this is not a vaccine, people. We're so used to using the term vaccines. Vaccine is when you take the virus, you attenuate it, or you get a dead virus, and you use your body's ability to recognize that virus. This doesn't have the virus in it at all, so it's not a true vaccine. It's a medical treatment, and it's proving that it's not very useful against Omicron, and I would venture to say, and this is where me and Ben Shapiro differ. Ben thinks that, it was great against Delta variant. Well, the numbers don't show that, Ben. I know you can take your studies and your statistics, but the numbers show that more people died after the vaccines came out during the Delta variant. So again, I'm just putting my 2 cents in. I'm not giving you data. I'm just giving you my observations. So again, the fact that Stephen A. Smith was probably double, maybe triple vaxxed, and he's having a hard time, and for these people to say, well, he probably would have died without it, I don't know if that's the case. I really, in my heart now, don't know if that's the case.
They got to keep the lie going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
anyway.
We'll check out here. If you guys, hey, I say this a lot in our YouTube description link. Make sure you're following us on Instagram, just for personal reasons. This coming Saturday,
he puts out a lot of effort on the Instagram.
Yeah, a lot of effort. We had to cancel it because of COVID, but this coming Saturday, we're having a murder mystery party with some friends. So I'll post some pictures on that and keep you guys in the loop of what's going on.
And we had to make sure that, Cedric didn't do it because that would be typecasting.
Wow.
But they did typecast me, just so you know. I'm the snake oil salesman. And I am a chiropractor, so I talked to my brother-in-law and said,
it's typecasting.
It's a little hurtful here.
You got hurt for a reason. Must have hit a nerve. All right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Stay tuned. We're going to have some stuff coming out soon. Tom McDonald's dropping a new video. We got a lot of things coming on. So anyway, hope you like. Please like.
I got an idea. Ghost said, I hope. Please like.
Okay. Please like.
Subscribe.
Ring that bell.
Nah, that's that was a little gee.
Oh my goodness. Anyway, please like, subscribe, ring that bell, and share our channel with everyone you know. You can do jazz hands while you do it. Continue being good to each other. Until next time, I'm Cedric.
And I'm Brian. We'll see you later.